A former mob associate is speaking to an interviewer about his career while Tony and the rest of the crew sit in an office counting mountains of cash. The group snorts in mockery as the man clarifies that mobs are no longer a genuine threat. Later that evening, Chris and his friend Brendan forcefully stop a truck driver at gunpoint and demand that he give up his cargo, which is DVD players. The driver begs both of them to beat him up so that it appears as though he fought because he is afraid of losing his job. They comply after a few moments of bewilderment and repeatedly strike him. Tony is going about his daily business the following morning when Carmela informs him that Mr. Miller, AJ's science teacher, had his car stolen. She asks Tony to see if he can help find it, even though he tries to ignore it. Reluctantly, Tony says he will call some people. Later, Chris and Brendan bring the players to the Bada Bing crew. Brendan makes an effort to gain Tony's favor, but Tony treats him with contempt. When questioned later, Tony informs Chris that he dislikes Brendan's methamphetamine use. Tony calls his mother to see how she's doing, but she's preoccupied when the mushrooms she was preparing on the stove overheat and catch fire. A terrified Tony instructs her to dial 911 as she tries to process what is happening, then calls Carmela and instructs her to drive to the house. In addition, he becomes frustrated when several people approach him to speak. After the stove fire is extinguished by the firefighters, Carmela informs Livia that she cannot continue to live alone in that manner. Despite her hesitant offer, she declines to move in with the family. Reluctantly, she accepts Carmela's offer to have a housekeeper take care of her. At Pussy's finding the car operation, an auto body shop, informs him that one of the chop shops has a car that looks like the one that went missing from Mr. Miller. A gay couple who work at a Starbucks Express are identified as the car thieves, and they are forced to get a car of the same make and model, have it repainted, and then deliver it to Miller. Miller discovers the car, albeit with wet paint, parked in the school lot as if it had never been there. When Tony visits Dr. Melfi, he informs her that his sisters don't want to interact with his mother and that Carmela is privately uncomfortable with her living with them. He lashes out at her for attempting to imply that there is hostility within the family when Melfi questions him about the reasons behind his relationship with his mother. Later that day, Tony delivers a bouquet of flowers to Livia's house. They discuss Perilyn, the housekeeper the family recently hired for her. She implies that she is being cheated by the woman. Tony tries to convince her that she needs the help after seeing through her deception. She also discloses that Junior wanted to meet with him over the phone. Jackie Aprile Sr., the acting head of the DeMeo crime family, meets with Junior and Tony at Satriali's. Chris and Brendan stole the company truck belonging to a transportation company that was paying them protection money. Junior informs them. Tony says he will get the two to pay back the money that was taken. As he departs, he also mockingly welcomes Mikey Palmice, Junior's right-hand man. When Carmela arrives at Livia's to deliver some food, she discovers the housekeeper hurriedly departing. Livia pretends to be innocent inside and claims to be unaware of what transpired. Tony takes some Prozac back at the Soprano house before he starts his day. He confronts Chris and Brendan, bitching at them for delaying the payment of the shipment. Even though Chris tries to convince him otherwise, Tony ejects Brendan and demands that he pay the money right away. Without saying anything, Chris gives the money. He is told by Tony not to interfere with Junior's business anymore. After talking briefly with Meadow about the missing ducks, Tony tells Carmela that he still admires his mother's level of activity for her age. Livia is seen driving a neighbor home as the scene cuts. She unintentionally puts the car in drive rather than reverse when she drops the woman off, colliding with her, who then bounces up onto the windshield. Tony tells Melfi what happened at her house. According to him, the other woman broke her hip, Livia sprained her wrist, and the doctors advise that the former be admitted to a nursing home. Melfi says it will be a wonderful experience for her and advises carrying out the plan. That evening, Brendan, Christopher, and his girlfriend Adriana arrive at a nightclub intoxicated. The latter proposes stealing an Italian suit shipment inside. Chris approves of the plan and becomes furious with Tony while intoxicated. But when Brendan approaches him again later that evening, he declines, stating that they must stay together and not separate to pursue their own interests. After scolding him, Brendan walks away. Returning to Livia's house, Tony informs her of the plan to transfer her to the retirement community. He became enraged with her when she disclosed that she had given away all of her jewelry. She keeps refusing when he tells her to come to the house, which stresses him out. After a while, he and Carmela take the irate woman to Green Grove and have her sign the required documents. Brendan and two gangsters try to rob another delivery truck from the same company the following day. When one of their guns goes out and fires, killing the driver, the plan goes awry. Brendan freaks out while the gangbangers flee in panic. To Tony's annoyance, Chris calls him and informs him of what transpired. He yells at them once more during their meeting, and then gives them instructions to return the items to the company's shipping yard. Tony recalls his childhood memories of Livia's house as he later packs up the last of her possessions there. As he looks at family photos, he starts crying and has another panic attack. Later, when they meet, he tells Melfi what transpired. She assures him that he made the correct decision, but she also attempts to persuade him to acknowledge that he harbors anger that he channels toward other people. In a rage, he finally storms out. Later, at the Bada Bing, he beats a bartender who couldn't use the phone and walks away, proving Melfi was correct about his anger.